Welcome, everyone. It's good to be together again. And to continue going through these two complementary texts, Thrangu Rinpoche's Tranquility and Insight, and Pema Chodron's How to Meditate. So last week we were working with an exercise from Pema Chodron's text, and it was particularly focused on learning how to observe thoughts as the object of meditation. And so as we go through these different kinds of teachings and exercises, we're starting to see the beauty and subtlety of shamatha practice, for one thing. And the beauty and subtlety because we can start to see the complexity of our mind, how we've experienced our mind in the past, how we are broadening our experience of mind now and expanding our conception and understanding of what mind is. Today, we are going to work with what we bring to it, more not the object of meditation, but the awareness or the observer side of meditation. So there is what we're observing and there's how we're observing. And both are important, and both combine to settle the mind and then break open our experience of the mind. So let's just briefly recall that we are not our thoughts. There are all kinds of thoughts that arise in our mind. There are difficult thoughts. There are thoughts that make us uncomfortable, that can be painful, or joyful thoughts. But thoughts are these intangible, immaterial, illusory events that arise and dissipate. And once we understand that, we can be a lot less judgmental and more fearless. So we're not afraid that we're some terrible, yucky persona, and we're not afraid of monsters lurking. We know that, well, they're just these events that arise and fall away, and we are experiencing them, and we're experiencing them sometimes from the perspective of an observer, not immersed in the thoughts. So let's settle the mind with a reminder that whatever is arising today, it's like weather, and that we can look with gentleness, curiosity, humor, and patience. So those are key attitudes that really make the exploration one of friendship with our mind, as opposed to a struggle. And at this point in the text, Thrangu Rinpoche refers to we want our mind to be just workable. We know we haven't hit that opening to ultimate wisdom, but the stage that we're working with is this flexible, supple, pliant mind that when we rest on an object, it can abide on that object. And if we are able to do that through all of these multiple subtle factors, then our mind can do what one wishes, and in that state, we're able to increase our wisdom and understanding. And particularly, we're letting go of judgment and struggle. So in these instructions, the words come up like rest on an object, not fight your mind so it can stay on an object, but rest or abide. And abide has a quality of gentleness right in the word itself. You can, it's summer in Maine, so you can imagine yourself floating and you're just abiding on the ocean. The ocean is moving and you and your body are just abiding. So there can be the quality of movement in the mind. Thoughts are considered a movement in the mind, but we can get to the point where we have a steadiness resting on the object of our choice. And today we're going to look at how we understand the quality of our attention in that approach to resting or the approach to abiding. And it's in the context of what Thrangu Rinpoche identifies as the 5 faults. And so, in the Tibetan texts, there are always these kinds of enumerations and lists. And I think they help us memorize so that we can remember the instructions. But it's the sense of what is another way of looking at the obstacles that we encounter, and what are the remedies or key subtle adjustments that bring us back to this workable mind. So we can think of ourselves when we're driving, we have a steering wheel, and if we're paying really clear attention, we just adjust our steering to the quality of the road, the meandering of the road, and it's, sometimes very, very subtle adjustments. So I'm going to go through them, but today we're going to focus on the quality of stupor and agitation. But the first fault that he opens up is laziness, and he defines laziness as lethargy. I just don't want to meditate today. There's so many more fun things to do. Oh, maybe I'll do it tonight, maybe later. There's not enough interest to meditate. The second quality of laziness is attachment to worldly activities, the many fun things to do, the obligations we have, the lists we have in our mind. The third one is interesting, particularly for us. I mean, the first two are fairly obvious, but the third definition of laziness is despondency and self-accusation. And that's that arising of the mind of, I'm just not good enough to do this. I can't do it well enough. Other people do it better. I'll never be like the great meditators. So that's as close as he gets to guilt. And I think it's defined in a really nice way. So let's say that first one of, I just want to meditate, don't want to meditate today. I'm just, too tired. And then it goes right into, if I were a better meditator, if I was more dedicated, or if I was like Pema Chodron, that despondency and self-accusation. So those are considered faults. And so when we recognize that we're doing that, we go, oh, look at that. That's a quality of laziness. How do I work with that? What is the remedy? I'm going to go into the remedies, but first I want to give his list. Okay, so after laziness comes forgetting the instructions. Remedy is mindfulness, and I'll go into great detail with mindfulness maybe next week. Third is stupor and agitation. And I'm having fun with stupor today because all morning long, there's been a shifting fog. And so that is so related to stupor and so mental cloudiness that I was quite inspired to connect our teaching this morning with the weather as I'm experiencing it. Fourth is under application of the remedies or not applying the remedies when they occur. And the fifth one is over application. So we have these remedies, and if in the application of them, we don't, after we solve the problem, we keep it going so we don't get to the resting or abiding, because the energy of the remedy or our use of it can take over and make more and more thoughts. So only 5 faults, but 8 remedies. And they're lovely. So the first is aspiration. We're remembering why we want to meditate. We're taking an interest in meditation. Because we're all here, we have aspiration. And he goes into a wonderful discourse in his text on if we're attached to something, it's considered negative because it's not benefiting us. But if we're attached to meditation, we call it aspiration because it is benefiting us. So there's a sense of really connecting, meditating to calming our mind, reducing our suffering, and increasing our wisdom, and being able to be more present and available to our families, friends, and eventually all beings. The second remedy is zeal. So as we have direct experience of meditation benefiting us, then we have more interest and more motivation. And this is connected with the word faith. Faith is, something that in Western understanding we connect with the invisible, whereas here it's more connected to trust. We see how the previous instructions have helped us and benefited us, and we develop trust in the lineage instructions and the Buddha's instructions in general because of our direct experience. Then mindfulness in great detail. And this begins to address the quality of our mental alertness. So not forgetting the instructions. And if you think of the last 2 months, there have been lots of instructions. So as we bring them home into our practice, there's a sense of owning how they're helping us and not forgetting them. And there is a sharpness and clarity of mind in the instructions. And the second part of mindfulness is that there are fewer thoughts and our mind is more and more naturally becoming focused, less effort in the focus. The fifth is due to this trust of our direct experience, our mind starts to become well-trained, supple, flexible, and there's a sense of, how wonderful this moment. I can just bring my practice totally to mind, whether it's standing in line at the grocery store or sitting formally in practice, but there's a sense that our minds are well-trained and flexible, and we can shift to practice more and more regularly using the moments of the day, washing the dishes, shifting to mindfulness. And there is a recognition of a natural pleasantness. So those of you who have studied the 16 breaths in the Sharvasti practice that holiness is having us focus on, there is a recurring recognition that this is a pleasant experience. And sometimes in meditation, it's wonderful to just sit and notice that it's pleasant and notice the absence, let's say, of the focus on what might be painful in our life, or the absence of the triggering memories coming up, or the absence of stress about the future. So more and more, there's a sense that whatever arises is a immaterial, illusory thought. I recognize that, and so I can start to observe that it's naturally pleasant. And this is important because it brings us back over and over again to meditation. This confidence in our capacity to be friends with our mind and to be fearless with our mind. And it's like it is a pleasant space, and whatever is on the table, and we can work with that with confidence. So today I'm experiencing fog. Carol in the previous session was saying, well, they're starting to experience a hurricane. This is the weather, but we have confidence that our mental experience is just these passing thoughts that are arising and dissipating, and whatever arises is also going to dissipate. There is no difference between, let's say, worry about a hurricane or thinking about a nice lunch or remembering a nice breakfast. They're all just these illusory, transient mental events, and the observation of those mental events can be pleasant. So now we get to stupor and agitation. And from the perspective of the Thrangu Rinpoche's commentary, these are put together because they have the same effect in your mind. They both make it more difficult to get to stability and abiding. But what I find interesting about them is with this confidence that we have and with the non-judgmental curiosity, essentially, we are checking in on the quality of our attention and starting to learn about the awareness that we see as or experience as an observer. And just like, I keep looking out the window, just like the fog has been shifting all morning, the quality of our mental attention, let's say from the perspective of stupor, is on a spectrum. So when meditation started today, I couldn't see across the street. I could see the edge of the balcony outside, but it was fuzzy. It wasn't sharp and clear. And there were times this morning where the fog was complete. It was just looking out at a white space. And this is a foggy day, so these are at one end of the spectrum. And then, let's say earlier in the week, when it was bright and sunny and hot, everything was crisp and clear, and the quality that we can use as a touchstone, they say, is a bright blue sky on a fall day. So as we move into September, notice the September sky and the brightness and crispness of the colors and what the sky is like with no clouds. So we have this spectrum. And most of the time, we're so caught in our thoughts, we're not even looking at the quality of our attention. We're in the middle of our own movie. And now we're asking the question, okay, we're sitting back and we're observing the movie, but what is the quality of this attention? And I have found it really interesting in morning meditation to give myself a moment to create an adjective before and after meditation. Like I'm starting morning meditation, and what is the experience of the quality of my attention or the quality of my awareness? And, in the morning, it can be like cold oatmeal, Parmesan cheese, cement. And then I start the breathing exercises and then meditation. And I have a way of then checking in again to see, oh, look at how the quality of my attention has shifted in these preliminary exercises. So some of us were just doing the Tai Chi session, and I was looking at, let's say, the quality of my attention was fairly clear, but had some aspect of just a little bit of fogginess. And then after the Tai Chi exercises, which uses our natural energetics, our energy system, to support, to unblock the mind-body experience, then, I move the spectrum a little bit towards increased clarity. And so I find it really very helpful. At one of the previous sessions, I introduced the 9-round breathing to before the 9-round breathing, after the 9-round breathing, before the Tai Chi, after the Tai Chi. And if you're doing the Sharvasti exercises, before and after, just so we can start to identify and recognize what is the spectrum as we experience with stupor on one side and crystal clear clarity on the other side. So the first instruction in eliminating and remediating this fault is to recognize it. So similarly, with agitation, we can look at how wild is my mind today. If you had difficulty with someone, or if you're experiencing some sort of difficulty, it might be like your mind is uncontrollably wild. You can't bring it to any kind of resting or abiding. So that would be at one end of the spectrum. And then at the other end of the spectrum would be, periodic movement, thoughts just arising and dissipating. So there's this whole spectrum of turbulence. So one is the clarity of attention, and the other is the turbulence that you're experiencing. So it's not about the thoughts or its content. It's because we recognize this. I'm stressed about this today, but a year ago I was stressed about something else. A year ago 2 years ago, something else. The mental experience of the turbulence is the same, even though the subject could be different. Particularly with the Sharvasti training that His Holiness is introducing, we have an emphasis on this mind, body, and breathing exercises that, because we're in the Tibetan tradition and a great deal of Vajrayana work, there is a understanding of the inner energies. So that can be very, very helpful. But there are also very down-to-earth instructions. Thrangu Rinpoche gives a visualization, and that's from his lineage, and Lord Jigten Sumgön also gives different visualizations. Thrangu Rinpoche's visualization is, if it is stupor, envision a white four-petaled lotus at your heart with a little white sphere, and let it move up just to the top of your head at the skin level, and then 4 finger widths above your head. And if it's agitation, visualize a 4-petaled black lotus with a black sphere, and it goes down to your meditation seat, and then 4 finger widths below. So there are visualizations for these 2 states, but there are also beautiful common sense. If it is stupor, throw open all the windows, take off all your extra clothes, turn on the lights, make the room bright. And if it's agitation, you can darken the room and wear heavier clothing. But the important thing is to begin to recognize these 2 different spectrums, and not with judgment, but with curiosity. Oh, I want to see what my experience of the spectrum is. And if I had an adjective for today, what might that be? So that I can remember tomorrow to compare, or I can remember after meditation to compare. And as we get to know the spectrum, with our minds being more and more flexible and workable, then we have these subtle fine-tuning of just a little shift here, a little shift there. Oh, I can see there's just a tinge of fogginess. Let me open my eyes a little wider. And one of the instructions is you can tense your body, tense the muscles of your body. Just do a little tension, just disperse that fog just a little bit. So we're starting to play with the subtleties. So it's not only about the thoughts, it's not only about settling the thoughts, it's the quality and clarity of attention that combined with the settling of the thoughts. So then there are 2 more remedies. Be diligent of applying these remedies, so don't get lost in meditation. Just notice, oh, I'm shifting into a little fogginess, or oh, my mind's starting to race a little bit. So apply the remedies and don't over-apply them. Remember, we're working with rest and abide with this flexible, supple mind. Okay, so let's take a few minutes just to work with the spectrum of stupor. I just love that word, stupor. Fogginess would maybe be more contemporary, but I like these unusual words. So sitting up straight, allow your shoulders to be back a little bit, and check in we're going to go through in stages and see which aspects of the instructions subtly affect fogginess. So checking in, you can put your mind on your breath, and as your mind is on your breath, notice the quality of that mind steadily observing the breath. And if you had to give an adjective, what might that adjective be just at this moment? Okay, we're going to go through some of the instructions for settling the mind, and there's nothing you should experience. It's more, we want to recognize this spectrum, and some of these things today may or may not affect the spectrum that you're experiencing this morning. So let's settle into the posture a little more. You can tilt your pelvis a little bit so that your back is more straight, so that that central channel is straight. You can put your shoulders back a little. Let your neck just gently expand by being lifted up a little bit. I use the method of just with my finger pushing back my nose a tiny bit, and that aligns and stretches the neck just the tiniest bit. So there's more potential for the energy to flow up and down the spine. Just checking in. No right or wrong, no judgment, just we're playing with the spectrum, just like we're adjusting the volume. Let's do the 9-round breathing, putting the thumb at the base of the ring finger. And we won't do the elaborate mudra, but just blocking your left nostril and breathing in with the right. Then exhaling forcefully from the left. Blocking the left again, breathing in through the right. And a short burst of exhalation. Then a slow, even exhalation. So shifting hands. Now we're blocking the right, inhaling from the left. And the exhalation is long and strong. Breathing in again with the left. Exhaling short and strong. Then exhaling evenly. Now, The same with both nostrils, breathing in, exhaling long and strong, breathing in, exhaling short and strong, breathing in and exhaling evenly. Returning to your breath as the object of meditation and looking at that spectrum, seeing if it subtly adjusted in any way. Then continuing in meditation, and just like the fog is shifting the tiniest bit outside the window, notice any shifting of the quality of clarity as you're experiencing it this morning. Like, take off my Zen, open the window, add a fleece. Just noticing that when we're meditating for 5 minutes, we're also observing the quality of clarity as we're observing the object, the breath. So let's take 5 minutes. and close. We'll do a dedication and then close the live portion so we have private discussion. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever